Yorktown, 1781. British under Clinton control New York. George Washington is very much wanting to engage him up there, encamped outside the city and watching the British movements, and the British likewise have been watching them. The French fleet is going to show up somewhere. Washington hopes for New York, but he knows it might also be down south, Charleston, Yorktown, somewhere. He gets word that the French fleet is going to show up at Yorktown. What he does is one of his typical maneuvers. Brilliant tactician, Washington was. He leaves a few men there at New York in his camp. He leaves tents erected. He has these men doing drills, and under the cover of darkness, Washington marches the bulk of his army out. 450 miles they march down to here, Yorktown, standing on top of the British last line of defense. From here, the British can see the Americans overrunning one of their redoubts. The British have pulled back since then. The French overran another redoubt. There's a French army on the scene helping the Americans. Once the Americans and the French working together succeed in trenching their way to within 400 yards of this position, Cornwallis has decided on an escape plan across the shortest or the narrowest part of the York River. He sends his first 1,000 men across, knowing that the battle is going to be lost. And it turns out that a storm comes along, destroys a bunch of the boats, and he loses a number of men. He's trapped, facing an army of French and Americans, combined strength of 17,000. He has to surrender. Because Washington had snuck out of New York undetected, the British commander in New York, Clinton, did not have time, once the subterfuge was detected, to send reinforcements to Yorktown. That enabled the French fleet to arrive here first, to block reinforcements from the British to come in and save the day for the British. The French actually used mortars like this one and put hot shots in. The mortar is angled upward, and the hot shot was laid in a fire, made red hot, rolled into here, and then lobbed into a ship, and of course the ship would burn. The French fleet then came in here, kept the British fleet out in the Atlantic, and eventually that fleet headed back to New York. And again, Cornwallis's hopes of victory, or at least of getting away with his army, were dashed. He surrendered 8,000 men that day, and the revolution, for all intents and purposes, was over. The British had grown tired of the war, and this major defeat was more than they could handle back home. The Grand American Battery, established outside the walls of, or rather outside the first line of defenses for the British. Yorktown is this direction, and once the British had seen the Americans were in this position and able to shell all of Yorktown, Cornwallis immediately decided to send out a white flag and ask for terms. He surrendered shortly thereafter. Looking at the shot that would have come out of this thing at long range, you'd fire a 6-pound ball. As such, could intimidate a lot of people but not take very many out. Could also pound down a fortification, bust up a ship or a door. Close range, say 200 yards, you fire a canister like this with these little, man, that's a little ball that hate to get hit by one. There's 20 in here. They would have up to 40 in here. Guns just like this were used to pound down the fortifications around Yorktown. Not a lot of up-close fighting except for when the redoubts were taken. This siege was about knocking down the fortifications and intimidation of Cornwallis.
Here we go. Gun, attention! Man out the beat. From right to left track. Search me. Clear. Load. Fight grenade! All right, guys, here we go. Now it's time to cover up. Fire!
The Morehouse outside of Yorktown, where both sides discussed terms of surrender and eventually came to agreement. This is Surrender Field, west of Yorktown. This is where the British troops came out and laid down their weapons. Some of them sullen and angry, and some of them tearful. Some of them threw their weapons down hard as if to break them. Once they had surrendered their arms, they went back into quarters, and this was the battle that really ensured that the American Revolution was not stillborn. Independence was secured here. Trophies of war, one right here at Yorktown. Don't know if you can read this, but it says surrendered by the capitulation of Yorktown, 19 October, 1781.